Thanks for being here. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm great. How are you?
We're so excited to talk to you today. So I know you a few years ago, we did a workshop of a musical together and you were amazing and so talented. And that's how I know you, but I really only know you from your adult life in New York as actress, singer, founder of Battle Body. So I want to take it back a little and get some context and kind of start from the beginning let's talk about where you were born and where you grew up.
Okay. I was born in Los Angeles.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, I didn't know that. Okay.
No one can ever really place where I'm from. Like I say LA a lot and people are like, oh, I also feel like, I don't know, not a lot of people, I guess, are like born and raised in places like LA or New York or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm from LA, grew up here. I'm here again now. I moved away from home at 15. I went to a performing arts boarding school by choice. That's the other thing. I feel like people also hear boarding school and they're like, ooh, like, what did you do? But
which boarding school was it?
It's called Idlewild Arts Academy.
Amazing.
And it is at the top of a mountain in Idlewild, California, which is like the small mountain town, kind of near Palm Springs, but up literally at the top of a mountain. Yeah, I went there for summer camp one year and came back from camp and somehow convinced my parents to let me go there. So I went there for my last 2 years of high school. And then I graduated and I moved to Boston and I went to the Boston Conservatory and graduated from there and moved to New York, and that's that. And I've been in New York since 2009.
I mean, this is very similar. We did not go to boarding school, but Tina and I both went to musical theater school and we got to the city in 2010. Well, I did. Tina got here a little later, but we graduated around the same time. Yeah. But you knew, so like you were asking your parents to go to performing arts boarding school. So you knew you wanted to be an actress and a singer real early.
Yeah, I'd always danced. Like my mom got me into dance class really young, and I was like a hardcore ballerina. Like back in the day, I was like on point. I took class like 6 days a week. I was a bunhead. Like I was that girl that was at dance from like 4 whenever I got out of school to like 7:30.
Okay, wait, we have not talked about this. I was the same way.
Oh, really?
I had like my point shoes. I was studied at a Russian ballet school where like you were not allowed to have one hair out of place. My teacher, Miss Alexandra, had a little stick where she would like adjust your leg.
Yeah.
This is so funny. I had no idea.
Yeah.
This is a completely unknown world to me. This was a complete opposite of my experience. I was like athlete, volleyball player, like that whole thing. So like I always loved the ballerinas though. And I always wanted to walk with a turnout in the halls of my high school because I thought it was so beautiful.
So I went to Idlewild for summer camp before my junior year of high school. And it was my first year like going away. I was also a very shy kid. Like I never did sleepaway camp. I never liked that. I didn't like being away from like home. So going to Idlewild for like a whole summer was already a big thing for me. And I just loved it. And the head of the theater department told my mom at the end of the summer, like we did our big final show or whatever. And she was like, you should really consider sending her here. I think she would do really well. And so my parents talked about it, and I literally like finished camp in August and moved in September.
Wow. To the top. That's amazing. What awesome parents. So supportive.
Yeah. I mean, I know my mom has been like, and I know she's going to listen to this, but she was always like, I wasn't done like being your mom when I go away. You know what I mean? I was like, I like pieced out and then went to Boston, then went to like, I have not been back. So
but like that's the ultimate act, like the ultimate show of love is releasing your child into the world, even if they might not be ready for it.
Yeah. And I think they also knew that it was going to be good for me. Cause like I said, I wasn't academic. I wasn't getting good grades, but then I went to Idlewild where we would have our academic classes in the morning and then we would have lunch and then we would have our artistic classes in the afternoon. And I like suddenly was getting straight A's. I was like class treasurer. I was, like it was just the right environment for me. And I was around other artists and like people that got me. Like we were just a bunch of like teenage art kids all in one place, which was great. And they also had a really good like college prep program. And I think for my parents, that was a big draw, because I don't think I would have gotten into college if I didn't.
That sounds like such a dream. So going to Boston Conservatory, was that an easy transition because you were already sort of used to that conservatory lifestyle? Yeah. What was that like?
Like I said, I was used to being around a bunch of artists. Idlewild was also like very strict, like not in a bad way, but we had school on Saturdays. We had school 6 days a week. We had study hours. Like we didn't have TV. We didn't have internet for a certain amount of time. Like we were very like, so I definitely like gained a lot of discipline from them. And I felt more prepared to go to Boca. I felt more prepared to like move across the country and be away from my family. So yeah, it wasn't like a difficult transition for me. I was like very much ready to go.
And were you always interested in more musical theater and dance rather than, because you got over to the East Coast and then moved to New York. Was there ever a time when you thought, well, maybe I should go give TV film a shot or move back to LA or give that, or was it sort of always that theatrical side?
Always theatrical, because I also feel like I've been talking about this a lot lately because I'm currently in LA for a couple of months. I feel like, you know, when you're younger, you never want to like stay in your hometown, you know, and like LA was technically my hometown, even though it's LA, but like I always wanted to be on the East Coast. Like I always like had dreams of being on Broadway, and, you know, so I never planned to like stay in California. I never envisioned myself like staying at home.
Yeah, you always want to see the different thing.
And of course now, like 15 years later, after a pandemic, and I'm out in LA and I'm like, God, it's nice out here.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, just getting some fresh air and some sun.
For me, it was like being able to put groceries in the car.
I miss that so much. I was just home in St. Louis visiting my family and went to Target and filled up a car, and it was a great feeling.
To like lug it home on a subway.
Right. Just like on your back on a sweaty train. Right. So did you like Boston Conservatory? Did you like your musical theater program? I know I have a lot of mixed feelings I went to the Hart School.
Oh, right. I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know I have a lot of mixed feelings looking back about things I wished I would have learned, or I just am interested in, as you reflect now back on your experience, what are your thoughts?
Did not like it.
Okay.
Did not like it. What I liked about being in Boston was Boston has a great theater scene. There's great theater in Boston. And so from my freshman year, I started auditioning for like regional productions in Boston.
Oh.
And so I did a lot of regional shows, and I ended up like getting my equity card by the time I graduated, which was like great. So I liked that aspect. I had a great time doing regional theater. The Boston Conservatory made me feel like I was untalented and like did not deserve to be there.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Our school was the exact same way. There's some of these schools, it's the break you down, build you up, but then they forget about the build you back up section. So
yeah, it was rough. I think for me, what did it is, I don't know if they still do this anywhere, which they shouldn't, because it's a horrible thing to put people through. But they did promotionals at Boco, where basically halfway through your sophomore year, you essentially re-audition to be in the school. And at the end of the year, if they don't feel like you're worthy, then they cut you and like ask you to leave.
That's actually very common with conservatories. We had that too.
Yeah. And
a lot of people were asked to leave after sophomore year.
Yeah. And I don't hear about it as much anymore. I don't know if people were like, you know what, this is terrible. Like maybe we should not. But I got cut from Boco. They told me I did not have professional potential.
No.
And they cut me and asked me to leave. And you can try to appeal it and get back in. And so I appealed, and I had like my voice teacher at the time from school wrote a letter, like my classmates wrote me letters. Like I basically just submitted this like huge appeal being like, this is bullshit. I deserve to stay here.
Yeah.
And they let me stay. It was also funny because when they said that, I was already working professionally. So I was like,
but you don't have professional appeal? Is that what it was?
Professional potential.
Potential. Oh, but you were already Okay,
she was already working, and she got her equity card by the time you graduated. This is insane to me. I am so proud of you. I don't know that. I don't think anyone who got cut from my program appealed, and I don't know that I would have had the strength to do that. And I am just so proud of you. That's amazing. That must have been really hard. A sophomore in college, you're 19, 20 years old. That must have been a little traumatic, though.
Oh, 1000%. Like, I will say, even though I like appealed and was like, no, I deserve to stay here, and I like fought for it, the aftermath of that affected me for like a good 10 years, because it,
of course,
like I always tell people, I'm like, when one of the, what is it? Like, I think at the time it was like the #2 musical theater program in the country. When they tell you like, you're not good enough, you have to leave. I definitely after that felt extremely insecure about my talent, insecure about my voice. I had to work really hard to like build myself back up after that, over, I'm not even exaggerating, over like 10 years. Like, of course, just in the more recent times have I been like, I'm a badass, you know, but.
Well, and those are such formative years. Like when you're 19, 20, you're in that program, you're vulnerable. Whatever anyone says is the word of God. You know, it's like we all believed everything, and we trusted these people that we were paying so much money to like tell us things to believe. I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was tough. And now, like, obviously now that I'm older and have strangely been working professionally for a while, I realized that I think the thing with some conservatories is some of the professors there are like, they're not really in touch with the business right now. They're in touch with it when they were in it, like in the 80s, you know, like it changes. And I think there's also like a lot of bitterness around that is taken out on students, you know, and it's like a perfect storm of like toxicity, I think, that can happen, which is unfortunate, because even kids I know who went to Boca who didn't get cut had other issues or insecurities because of the conservatory, which is a shame, because you're paying a lot of money to like be told you're not good enough, you know?
So you didn't let the bastards grind you down, which we love. You stuck it out, and you still moved to NYC, and like, I've never called it NYC in my whole entire life. That felt so stupid. Okay, anyway. So you moved to NYC. Okay, but you still like got to the city, and what was that transition like? Did you feel much better when you got here?
Yeah, I struggled.
Well, of course, like we all do.
We all do.
Yeah, everyone does. I think for me, the struggle was more like, again, you know, at the conservatory, they're like, all right, you're going to do your showcase, and then if you're good enough, you'll get signed by an agent, and then all your dreams will come true and you'll be on Broadway. And so I showcased, signed with an agent right out of showcase, and then got dropped a year later because I wasn't booking anything. And I like was not told that that was an option. Like, I didn't know that that was a possibility of what could happen. So when my agent dropped me, I was just kind of like, huh? I didn't feel prepared, and like, I didn't know what I was supposed to do as an actor in New York. I didn't know about going to ECCs and EPAs. I didn't know about coaching auditions. I just thought I had an agent and they would send me on things and I would go perform and someone would give me like my big break. You know what I mean?
Yes, it takes so long to learn about, yes, you have an agent, but 90% of the way you're going to get your jobs is through you, you know?
Yeah. And that's what they should be teaching in these programs. Yes. That side of the business.
That's what they need to be teaching. You know, like that. And that was the thing. I felt at BOPA, we were like, oh, learn to sing in the 1920s style. And I'm like, I have never once used that. Like, there should be, meanwhile, I didn't know what a swing was when I graduated, you know, like basic things. So my agent dropped me and I kind of struggled for a while. And then I found a dance class at Steps that I freaking loved with Jeff Shade, who was just the most joyful person. And I became obsessed with this class, and I would go religiously every week. I like found a voice teacher that I love. So I kind of like over a few years kind of like found my footing and found my people and the classes that I liked and, you know, things like that. And then I ended up doing like a showcase class. And I found my current agent through that. And then at that point I was like I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I need you to do. Like I knew what the agent client relationship was supposed to be like at that point, as opposed to me just being like, all right, just send me auditions and I'll look at it. It was definitely a journey of like figuring out how the hell to like handle this industry, you know?
It truly is. And when you've been here for a chunk of time, you go through multiple lives. I was cleaning out, we were cleaning out my apartment with my husband, and we found all these old comp cards when I was modeling, and there were like 3 different agencies. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I forgot about that period. And like those 2 years, and oh, there was a different, you know, oh, I chopped my hair off that year. That was a time, you know, like it's truly, you go through so many phases.
Trying to work. I remember I also, when I moved to New York, I could not find a job like to save my life. And I remember one of my jobs at one point was I literally passed out flyers on the street for like breakfast sandwiches for like Cafe Metro.
Yeah.
And I did that for like, I want to say maybe a month. And then I had a moment where I was like, okay, you didn't move to New York to do this. Like we could level up from passing out flyers on like Fifth Avenue for like a breakfast burrito.
We've all had like that job. I mean, I've definitely passed out a few flyers in my time, and it's like, this isn't my life. This isn't my life. This can't be my life.
Like, know your worth.
Yeah. We've all been there. Okay. I want to talk about the fun career highlights for you. Like, I want you to kind of rattle off and tell us about career highlights as an actress.
One of them, which, and not necessarily like, oh, it's like the super successful, amazing thing in terms of like lessons or growth. The first one I think would be, I was in this off-Broadway show called Sisters, the musical, that I think is yeah, I think like every Black woman in New York has been in that show. But that was a big one for me because that was the first show that I booked after like being dropped by my agent, going through all the whatever that I went through. And so I was really excited that I was like, oh my God, I like finally freaking booked something. Like, you know, and I was a part of Sisters for a while. I was like their vacation swing, and they would call me like every 6 months and be like, do you remember the show? Can you do it tomorrow?
Right.
I booked Dear Evan Hansen, and that was like my first like very like hyped up, highly anticipated show. That was exciting. And that was one that I think by that point, I also knew how to prepare for an audition. And I auditioned my ass off for that show in like a 2-day period. Like it was the quickest process, but it was the first time that I like really researched the role, researched the show. I had an experience before where I told someone I was taking a masterclass from that I was like, I feel like as a Black woman, there's often like pressure to go into a room and be like riffy and you know, like be what people would expect a Black woman to sound like or to sing like. And I don't sound that way. And so I struggled a lot with that, with just like going into an audition room and doing what I do, as opposed to trying to do what other Black women do. And so Dear Evan Hansen was the first time that I went in and was like, this is me. I'm not going to riff. I'm not going to scream my face off because I can't. It's not my voice. I just went in with like a very clear head, and I was very like zeroed in. Like I was like, this part is mine. That was a good experience. And I, you know, and at the end of the day, it's kind of funny because I did it at Second Stage. I covered Crystal and Lloyd. And then I also have to say, like, I think Broadway Bounty Hunter was one, because Broadway Bounty Hunter was just like everything I love about theater in one production. It was another show where I like got the appointment, read it, like YouTube some music and listened to it. And I was like, I have to get this job. Like this job is mine. It will be mine, and put that energy out there. But it was just a great experience across the board. And then it introduced me to Joe Iconis, and then that's how I met you and all these other incredible people. And so it just was like, it was the right move all around.
Well, obviously your professional potential isn't an issue anymore.
Yeah.
So you're like booking, you're working, it sounds like you are just like killing the game with the artist stuff. Where did Battle Body come into play? Where did this new business come into the picture, and how that get started?
I started initially, I started taking Pilates. That's how it started, because I had really bad back pain. And so a friend of mine taught Pilates, and she started training me, and she was like, you should look into teaching Pilates. Like, you're good at it. It's cheaper. It's faster. Like, you can work right away. And I just kind of was like, yeah, okay. Like, I wasn't like, I don't know. I was just like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And so I got certified to teach Pilates. Long story short, I like started working at like New York Sports Club, Crunch. I eventually got certified to become a personal trainer, and I started working at like different little boutique gyms. I always liked the idea of like growing with a company and with a business, like from the ground up. And then I just kind of had a moment where I was like, I've been doing this long enough at this point, cut to like, I've been now training people for like 8 years. I was like, I've been doing this for long enough, and I feel like I kind of have a following. And I was like, why don't I like try to do this on my own? So I kind of started thinking about that. I just didn't see myself going to work for another person. Like, I was like, I think I just want to work for myself now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I launched Battle Body.
Can we talk about how your last name is
so perfect
for a fitness? Like, is there truly, like, your last name is Battle and your company is called Battle Body, and it's amazing. It's truly amazing.
Well, what's funny is I thought of Battle Body like 8 years ago, 7, 8, like when I first started doing Pilates. In my head, I always called my training Battle Body even when I worked for like New York Sports Club or whatever. I would do like pay what you can. I would like rent a studio out in Ripley Greer and be like, you can pay whatever you can. And it was like Battle Body Pilates. And so I had always, for some reason, had that name for myself. And I had always felt like one day I'm going to like start my own gym and it's going to be called Battle Body. So it's been in my head for like almost a decade, and it just kind of came to fruition in 2019.
It's
perfect. Love that. I have to tell you, so I know Alex has been doing Pilates since she was 14. She's like, knows what I am not a Pilates person. I do yoga. I never thought I liked Pilates. I was always like, I don't know. I don't think I like it. I took your class this morning. I did a 30-minute moment. It was like everything I'd ever dreamed of my yoga classes to be. And I was like, I loved it. I've been having serious back pain like the last 6 months. It was like the only thing that felt good. Like I was like, oh my gosh, my back feels good. It feels healthy. And you are just so fun and so easy to listen to. And like, it's a good workout, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. And I was like, okay, I know I love this girl when you were like, your hair was like in your way or something. And you're like, I got to deal with my hair and the burn in my ass. And I was like, she's my girl. This is like totally my jam. I love this.
Yay. I'm so glad.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it.
Pilates is great. And it is kind of I think a lot of people don't really get what Pilates is. So people are discouraged from like.
Totally.
And it's also like Pilates is like a lot to think about. Like, you're breathing while moving this, while engaging this. And like, it's a lot, but it's like, it's the best thing. Like, it's the best thing that's happened to me.
You explain it in such a way in your class, like that's so, because I've taken Pilates classes before and it felt very overwhelming mentally. I was not overwhelmed. It was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense and I feel it and I know exactly what you're saying. And I can't wait to take another class. It was awesome. Loved it.
When I took your class, I did the full hour Pilates with the HIIT and strength, which I think is such a cool combo. And Tina, you took the half-hour Pilates. So it's a really cool combination that I've never done before. Can you talk about how you kind of mixed a bunch of different disciplines together to create your technique?
I started with the Pilates foundation, and what I learned is that I always say Pilates enhances anything else that you do. It's like the ballet of fitness, like
so they had it at my dance studio growing up, and they would encourage us to take it once or twice a week to prevent injury. So I grew up taking Pilates. I started in 8th grade, and it was just always part of my life, and I love it.
Yeah, it makes you just like deeply aware of your body. And, like they say, if you're going to be a dancer, you always have to take ballet first, whether you're going to do hip hop, tap, whatever, like you have to take ballet. That's how I feel Pilates is, because it just sets a foundation. Like, you learn how to engage your core. One of my biggest pet peeves in the fitness world is when I take a class and the instructor's like, and engage your core. And I'm like, but how? People don't know what that means. You know what I mean? And it's a really deep, intricate thing that you learn through Pilates. And like I said, it makes you aware of your body. It makes you aware if you're like, oh, I'm holding my shoulders up here, or, oh, I'm rounding my spine when I shouldn't be. So it just kind of enhances everything. So then when I became a personal trainer and I started doing a lot more HIIT and strength, which I, first of all, never thought I was going to enjoy. And like, it used to really intimidate me, HIIT and like weightlifting. And now it's like what feeds my soul. But I started getting into that world and I realized like, oh, this foundation of Pilates actually really helps with this. You know, if I'm doing a deadlift with 150 pounds, it's helpful to know how to engage my core and how to like bend over and stand up safely so I don't hurt myself. And so I started incorporating Pilates into my sessions with like my personal training clients. It enhances their workout, you know, and it accelerates your progress. It accelerates your results. Anyone can shut their mind off and throw some weights around, but what makes you truly strong is if you're mindful and if you know how to do things properly. And that's what makes it feel so special, as I say. Like, that's what makes you feel like that burn of like, okay, you can be in a contraction rolling up. And if I'm like, you know what, imagine sliding your rib towards your hip and you're just like, oh shit, there it is, you know, it enhances everything. So it was just a lot of experimenting with that and then just kind of finding like the correlation. Like for me, doing the battle method, which is the Pilates and then the HIIT, you feel super aligned and engaged from the Pilates. So then you go into the HIIT and you're not just thrashing around, like you're in a much more controlled
Exactly. And this is what I wanted to bring up. That's the thing I loved about it so much, is that it's the Pilates first and then the HIIT. So your body's really warmed up, your spine is elongated, your mind is dropped in. When I took your class, I had 2 really bad neck injuries this year, and I was recovering from the second one. And I was just starting to work out after like laying flat in bed, not moving. And I was able to do it. I modified a few things, obviously. I took some breaks from jumping, but because it was set up the way it was, I was really able to get a good workout in. So I really think it is for everyone at every level. I just loved it so much. I hate when you go into a class and it's like right off the bat, we're like starting with like jumping and burpees. It's like, no. And I think that you coming from the dance world, you understand how important it is to warm up and to drop in and to roll through your spine before we're starting to jump around.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I want from my classes is I want everyone to feel welcome. I always say like every body is a battle body. There are some classes that you know, might take where everyone kind of looks the same. Everyone has the same aesthetic, or they're like always the people that are in the front row of the class. And I think that's why people are so intimidated by fitness. And it's like, why is fitness intimidating? Fitness is just what we should be doing to maintain a healthy life. The amount of times that people have been like, oh, I really want to take your class, but I'm so out of shape. And I'm like, well, if you come to class, you will get in shape. Like,
right.
You don't have to be in shape to come to class. And so I want everyone to feel welcome. I want people who are like, oh, I had a neck injury, to feel confident that they will be taken care of in my class. And I try to do that, you know, pre-pandemic, I would teach classes with like 20, 30 people in it. And I think, again, the foundation of Pilates, because a good Pilates certification is very heavy on anatomy and physics and biomechanics. Like I had to pass an exam in that before I could learn the exercises. And so because of that, someone could come into my class with a neck injury, someone could have a slip disc in their lumbar, and someone could be 20 weeks pregnant. And I know how to accommodate for each person and still make the class like challenging and uplifting for people. And that's just what I want. I want everyone to feel comfortable and welcomed and like celebrated and wonderfully challenged. I don't want them to feel like they're gonna die. I don't want them to feel like they're a failure when they leave, which I have also heard that a lot of these chain gyms, they specifically make their classes seem impossible so people want to come back. That's like the tactic. I don't want people to feel like failures. Like I want them to feel uplifted and like, damn, I feel so good. I can't wait to take that class next week. You know what I mean?
Yes. This is exactly what we need right now. This is exactly what we need. What's the 5-year plan for Battle Body? I hope it's going to like stick around and grow. And I hope you come back to New York and open a studio. I want to take a class from you in person.
It's interesting because the pandemic like made me look at like virtual stuff in a whole different way, because pre-pandemic, I launched Battle Body in October of 2019. And then like March 2020 happened and everything, like the world shut down.
Right.
In that time before the pandemic, I taught classes in person and I did personal training in person. The pandemic made me realize like, oh, there's a need for like on-demand programs or like subscription-based programs, which I never really considered before. So my plan is just to grow Battle Body. I have so many ideas in my head of what I want to do. Month-long programs, 6-week programs that I would design. I just recently incorporated pre and postnatal training into Battle Body, which has really taken off, and I want to go further with that.
I wanted to ask you about that actually, because I have a good friend who's pregnant and she is working with a midwives group and a doula, and she's like really into like being physically fit during her pregnancy. And I saw you post about how it's not so true that you're not supposed to lift weights when you're pregnant, that you're actually supposed to like make sure your muscles are strong.
Yeah.
And I loved that, because I do think a lot of people think, you know, you're supposed to like chill and but that's not actually true. You're supposed to keep your body strong so that you can physically withstand labor.
Withstand pregnancy, labor, motherhood. Like babies come out weighing 8 or 9 pounds. Like that's like a little 8-pound dumbbell that you popped out of your body. Like babies are heavy and they grow and they get heavier. Prenatal training is important for pregnancy because, again, the Pilates foundation of knowing how to engage your core, pelvic floor strength. So as your belly gets bigger, you don't sink into your back. So many pregnant women are like, my back is killing me. But when you know how to properly engage your core and do things like sit up and or stand up and sit down with that awareness and with that strength, I mean, I could go on, but then giving birth, labor is endurance training. Like it's literally endurance interval training. You have a contraction for 45 minutes where you feel like you're in incredible pain and you want to stop, but you can't. And then you get like 30 seconds of rest and then you're back into 45 seconds. That is literally interval training, which you have to train for. And then motherhood, I won't get into like our healthcare system, but basically people are like, here's your baby, good luck. And now you have a kid and you're recovering because your core is like, because you just gave birth and you're lifting a kid while carrying a baby, you know, carrier, while cleaning, you know, and that's all training. So with my pregnant clients, for example, it goes by trimester, but let's like, I have a client right now who's in her 2nd trimester. And so we are starting to prepare her for like her activities of daily life as a mom. So I will give her like a 15-pound kettlebell to hold up here and a 25 pound kettlebell to hold down here, because how many times are you holding a baby and holding a diaper bag that's packed with a whole bunch of shit? And you have
the pumpkin seat. I see my sister and my sister-in-law, baby or toddler in one hand with the pumpkin seat and the diaper backpack and the stroller. It's like, it's madness.
Always. Yeah. And there are ways to care, so you're not like leaning like this, like you're aware of this, you're strong in your core. So you're training, it's a whole athletic event. And I think there's such a misconception of like, it's very antiquated, like, oh, put your feet up, eat for 2, you know, and it's not that. It's like, you have to be a strong ass woman to go through pregnancy and childbirth and motherhood. In the program that I took, my certification program, they're like, you know, you're not eating for 2, you're nourishing for 2, you know, like it's your first act of motherhood to get this strong. And it just gives your baby benefits too when you work out, when you're pregnant. I could go on, but
I love that your whole outlook is let's be as strong as we can be and let's prevent injury. Let's build muscle to prevent injury and to feel strong and healthy.
Yeah.
I would love to know, do you have any advice for a woman who is thinking about starting her own business? Are there things you wish you would have done, big surprises you learned? Do you have any words of advice?
My advice would be to be hyper aware of when is the right time to start a business. I don't think I would have been ready for Battle Body 5 years ago or 8 years ago. You know what I mean? Just being very in tune to when is the right time, being very clear on what your mission is and like following through on it in every aspect of what you do, and to just like believe in what you're doing and trust that like if you keep your integrity, it will be successful. That was the biggest thing for me with Battle Body and seeing it become so successful. Like, because I had worked for so many other gyms where it was very like salesy and like sell to this person and close this deal. And, you know, or it was also like, oh, let's film every single session and post it on Instagram all the time, which I never felt comfortable doing because I feel like personal training sessions are private and personal. It was a challenge for me to be like, just keep your integrity, like stay with what you believe in. And I think that's what kind of the draw of Battle Body is that it's for the client. It's not for the sale. It's not to close the sale. And, you know, and it's a business, and business is successful because I'm not calling clients being like, hey, so can I have your credit card info? I'd love to charge you for, you know what I mean?
It is. And people trust you, and people really trust you, and you can tell, and you have a great following. And the class I went to was packed, and I'm so proud of you. But like Tina and I talk about this a lot, is that we want people to trust us. We want to stay true to our word and to the things that we believe. And like you said, stay clear on that and not get too sidetracked. I love that advice so much.
I love that too.
I will also say what I had to really work on, and I'm still like battling inside, is especially for women to like know your fucking worth and to ask for it. Whatever price you create for yourself, like that is your pricing. Don't budge on it. You don't have to offer that 20% off discount. Like, you know what I mean? Because I think the fear is so real of like no one wanting to buy what you're selling, that I know in the beginning of Battle Body, I was like, it's flag day sale, you know, like for anything.
Yes.
And shout out to my boyfriend, Javon, for like holding me accountable, because I'd be like, oh, this person just finished like their second package in a row. Should I offer them 10% off their next one to say thank you? And he was like, no. This is your sale. Like, hold true to it. And I have really seen when I like hold true to that and like, this is my worth. This is what I charge. This is what I charge for a special event. People pay it, and you invite the kind of clients that you want to work with. So, and I think it's hard for women. I think women sell themselves short a lot, and women apologize for themselves a lot. And I've really had to work on like not doing that and like staying true to like my integrity, my pricing, my this, just know your worth, trust it, you know, don't sell yourself short.
I love that. I was just talking to another business owner, female business owner today. And we were talking about how we always lowball ourselves. People say, okay, well, what are your rates for this? And you're always going, well, since you asked so nicely, I guess I could give, you know, and no, I heard a phrase that your budget does not determine my rates. My rates are my rates. This is what I charge. This is for the service. And if you don't want it, that's fine. But I think as women, we're constantly trying to fit into this little, you know, we don't want it to upset anybody or cause any waves. But I love that. I love that you're like, no, this is where the value is. And I think it does add value to your product too, and to what you're selling.
Yeah, and like, you don't have to be an asshole about it. Like, you don't ask like a doctor, like, oh, you know, can I just pay you next week? Like, no, you came in today and I treated you, and this is how much you pay me now for that.
Yes.
And yeah, it's weird. It's weird that we feel the need to do, like you were saying, you're like, oh, well, since you asked nicely, or like, oh, well, they're a friend of some, you know, and and it's, I think you just get to a certain point in life where you're like, and also like, this isn't my hobby. Like, this is
and I think as artists, that's so ingrained in us too, because we come from a place where I'll just work for free because I want the exposure. And it's like, we carry that over into our other work too. You know, you start a business and you're going, well, I had to operate from that place of scarcity.
Interesting that you say that, because I think this pandemic has really taught me how to say no to people and how to like not operate from that place of just doing something for the opportunity or for the exposure. I'm at a point where I'm like, well, at this point, I am a professional in this, and you are paying for my expertise in whatever, whether it's singing. And the thing is too, like, especially when it comes to theater in this pandemic, like times are tough. Everyone's taken a hit financially, and I completely understand that. But it's also a way of like showing your appreciation for your expertise. You know what I mean? So if you're going to like sing in this like I will get you an Amazon gift card for like $20, like something to show your appreciation for their expertise that you are bringing them on to do. And I was listening to a podcast from Rachel Rogers, she's also a Black female entrepreneur. She's like a self-made millionaire. And she said a friend of hers like wrote a book, and it was like number 4 on the New York Times bestseller list or something. And the girl's manager was like, well, your rates just went up. You're now a New York Times bestseller. And she was like, oh, but I'm only number 4. And no, you are on the list where millions are not, and you are number 4 on it. So your rates just went up. I mean, I'm not like every time I get a certification raising my rates, but like, you know, at this point, I've been in this business for like about a decade. I have different, you know, specialties like the pre and postnatal or the Pilates or sports endurance training, whatever.
And that's not even counting your life dance training.
Right. Life dance training.
Like in addition, like you have so many expertise in so many areas.
Yeah. And I think that women need to like be like, oh, I do know a lot of what I had dinner with a friend the other night, and she was like, I'm going to have a serious moment with you. Like, I'm really proud of you. Like what you built for yourself after the bullshit you went through of getting fired, after people you worked for who treated you like shit and underpaid you. Like I've worked at gyms where I've made less than my male counterparts, even though I was more qualified. And then when I asked for more money, I was called like negative and selfish and like not a team player. And I'm like, but I'm asking for what he's making. You know what I mean? And so she was like, you know, you have to acknowledge that you went through all of that and still came out on the other side and have grown something into being successful. And for some reason, like she's also a friend I've known for like 15 years. So for her to like say that to me, I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, this is pretty fucking cool that I built this. Like, celebrate ourselves more often and not apologize for it and feel like we need to brush it off.
So you are running your business. You are training a bunch of people, but you're also still an actress and a singer. So can you kind of take us through how you're managing your time between just doing so many things at once?
I actually always tell people like doing fitness while performing actually, I think makes me a better actor, and it makes me better equipped to handle that career as well, because I have something else that I love to do. And so, you know, even though I clearly like put my all into every audition and want to book jobs and whatever, I don't feel like I go in anymore with the energy of like, please God, hire me. Like I really need this. You know what I mean? Like I have something else that feeds my soul. And that was the point of starting fitness, is I wanted something else that like I could make money doing, and I just genuinely enjoyed and felt proud of. And, you know, so I'll be like, for example, when I was doing Broadway Bounty Hunter, all throughout rehearsals, I think I took a break in Tech Week just because the Tech Week is crazy, but all throughout rehearsals and performances, I would wake up, I would be up at like 5:30. I would go to the gym where I worked. I would train my clients in the morning. I think I started at like 7 a.m. I would train my clients. And then a lot of times I would train until like maybe 9:30. And then I would go to rehearsal at 10, you know, have rehearsal. And I did that all through. And then once we started performances, I would be like up at 5. I would train people all throughout the day till the afternoon, maybe go home and take a nap, and then go to the show at night. And people always thought I was like so crazy for doing that, but I'm like, it keeps me in such a nice headspace. Like I'm first of all warmed up from like talking and training people and moving my body. So if I have an audition, I'm like ready to go. I'm awake. I'm not just like kind of rolling out of bed and like doing some lip trills and going. It's a really nice balance. I think the two things complement each other. And now the plus side of Battle Body and like being the boss and being in charge is like, I'm in charge of my schedule. I don't have to ask, like, can I have time off or can someone cover me? I can just do it, which is a dream. So if auditions pop up, I have the freedom to move people around. And, you know, if jobs happen, I'm able to juggle it accordingly. So yeah, it's a great balance. Highly recommend that everyone have two careers.
Good for you.
I think that makes so much sense though, to, you know, you don't get so wrapped up in one thing. And I think Alex and I are like that too, in that we like to have a lot of different balls in the air, because it keeps you from getting too wrapped up into one world, and it keeps you well-rounded and grounded. And
yeah, it's just like, it feels more stable. Like I was in a show called Bat Out of Hell, which was, I was in the national tour, which went to one city and then closed.
Wait, was that the Meatloaf musical?
Yes.
Yep. The Meatloaf musical. Yes. Yeah. I booked the national tour of it, which I was so excited for. It was a year-long tour. We rehearsed in New York, went to Toronto, and then we were supposed to go to Detroit. And 2 days before we closed in Toronto, we were told that the tour was canceled. For reasons we still don't know.
Which, for our listeners, if you're shocked right now, yes, it's shocking, but also such as life in the theater. You never know what the hell is about to happen, and you have no control.
But I will say, I did not know that was going to happen, because I was like, oh, I'm locked in for a year. We have cities booked. They can't cancel a whole tour. Well, they can. I was blindsided. It was horrible. And so then like 3 days later, suddenly I was like back in New York, and I was like, I had a very famous, in my world, famous only to me, famous like audition meltdown, because I came back to New York. Luckily, my agent was like, all right, I have this audition for you. It was for the Falsettos tour. And I was like, okay, great. And I was in my callback in front of, was it William Finn?
It was James Lapine and William Finn, because I was also in callbacks, and I remember I can picture the room right now. Yes. Okay. I had my meltdown, my famous audition meltdown in that exact same room. So
the show.
You just painted the picture. Yeah.
I was in the room with them, James Lapine, William Finn, and I was singing, like the words were coming out of my mouth, but in my head, I think it was the first time I was like, holy shit, I'm back in New York. I was supposed to be on this for a year. Why am I back in Pearl Studios? What is happening? Like, I have nowhere to, I had my place was subletted. I couldn't go back to my apartment. I had nowhere to live. I had planned for a year of like great production contract tour money that was taken away. And that all was happening in my head as I was singing whatever song I was singing. And I was like sweating profusely. I was like starting to cry a little bit. And I was just like, I also just knew, I was like, I know I did not get this job. So I'm just going to go ahead and see myself out. The point of this is, thank goodness for fitness, because my show closed. I came back to New York. I called my boss, the gym that I was working at the time, and was like, so surprise, I'm back. And he was like, great, come on back to work. And I didn't dip down into that spiral of like unemployment, like how am I going to pay for insurance? Like, you know what I mean? And a lot of my fellow cast members like I had a tough time, you know, so it was rough, but I was happy that I had a job to come back to and a job that I enjoyed, and wasn't like, oh my God, I'm fucking waitressing again.
Well, because your whole identity wasn't wrapped up into one thing. You could expand your identity.
Well, as we've learned this year, your identity cannot and should not be all wrapped up in one thing, because when that thing is gone, what are we left with? As we all learned this year, when performing and acting jobs were not really a thing. I also think it's very healthy to have a lot going on, because I think when you're busy, I think busy people get busier. Do you know what I mean? And I think when there's a lull, or when you're feeling kind of stuck, the best thing you can do is try and have an idea, start a project, do something new, because it will jumpstart other things.
And I think also like it's tricky, because especially this year, I know there were a lot of actors who like, you know, pandemic hit, everything shut down, and they felt pressure to like find another career. You know, like they're like, maybe I'll go into real estate, maybe I'll do whatever. And their heart wasn't in it. And so I don't think necessarily, like, I don't like the narrative of like, oh, you're an actor, you better find something else to do in addition to it.
No, it could be a hobby. It could be not
Right.
a job, just it could be a literal hobby that you don't make a cent from.
Right.
Anything that just makes you happy. Like
Exactly.
it could be a class. It could be just anything else that makes you happy for the in-between moments.
Exactly. Because I'm like, Pilates started off as a hobby, and then it just like,
Exactly.
like when I started taking Pilates, I wasn't like, one day I'm gonna own a fitness company.
Right.
Like, this was like, my back hurts and I need
Right.
help. And then it kind of just went on a journey of its own. So yeah, it's definitely been a lesson in like, my entire identity is no longer theater or being an actor. I mean, when the pandemic hit and everything shut down, there were no auditions. I was in like final callbacks for so many things when this pandemic hit, you know, that all shut down. And literally in my head, I was like, all right, I guess this is just going to be the year of Battle Body. And I just like put everything into that.
And it's also just going towards your curiosity. Like you
Mhm.
said, you didn't set out saying, I'm going to start a fitness company.
Yeah.
You said, I'm interested in Pilates. Let me experiment with this.
Well, and even at the beginning of the pandemic, like, what Battle Body has become in this pandemic was not a plan of mine. Like, back when we thought this pandemic was going to be like a 3-week thing, I posted the good old days. I posted I started posting like free IGTV workouts because I was just like, oh, people probably need to like do something. So here, take this workout for free. You don't need to Venmo me for it. Just like enjoy. And then I like started really missing the group aspect of like group fitness classes. So I was like, all right, I guess let's see what this Zoom thing is all about. Let's see if I can do a class on Zoom. And then that took off. And then someone messaged me and they were like, do you do personal training? And I was like, sure, I do now on Zoom, sure. And so then I started doing personal training. And, you know, so it was kind of just me like going with the flow of where the universe was taking me and just kind of saying yes to things and figuring it out along the way. And now it's at a place where it's very, I invested also, like, advice for people starting business is like, invest in help. I invested in a social media manager because I realized how important social media is. So she helps me create content and figure out, you know, what she was the one who came up with the on-demand idea, which has been amazing. So shout out to Victoria because she is.
We might need to get her number. Alex and I were just talking about this. We're like, we need to outsource. We need help. And that's something my CPA said, because I finally got a CPA this year. And she was like, and I was like, I just like to do everything myself and be a strong, independent woman. And she was like, strong, independent women need help from other strong, independent women.
Yes. And I witnessed, again, like my experience working at different gyms is I witnessed a lot of people who and let me tell you, it's hard. It's a different level, like being the one in charge and being the boss, because this is all your baby and you want to have your eyes on everything. So it's hard to surrender that control. But I think it's really limiting when you don't, because you're not I mean, if I hadn't hired Victoria, I wouldn't have thought of I wouldn't have known where to begin with on-demand stuff.
Of course not. How would you know?
Put that in my head. She was the one. I used to write a blog like at the very beginning of when I started training people. I wrote a blog on Blogspot and it was called The Battle Body No Bullshit Guide to Getting Your Life Together. And Victoria was like, you need to bring that back. Like, we'll put it on, you know what I mean? And so it was inviting this other perspective that kind of saw my business in a way that I wasn't seeing it and saw the potential for it and how to grow it. And if I just been like, I can handle everything, I could do social media, I could do this, I wouldn't have had that. And also, like, social media has become like literally a full-time job. Like, you can hire people to do it full-time. And the pandemic made me realize how important it is to have that social media presence when you're trying to build a business. A large amount of my clientele I have never met in person. They have found me on Instagram or on the internet. And I recognize, like, I don't have the capacity to manage this the way that I would like it to be managed because I'm doing all the other stuff. And so, you know, she'll help me create content. I still write captions. I'll still do my Instagram stories. I still have a hand in it, but like, just to be able to delegate it to someone else is such a game changer. Like I actually, Victoria will probably listen to this at some point. Like, I don't know what I will do if she ever leaves.
Hi, Victoria. We love you.
Love you, Victoria.
Okay. Before we go, we want to ask you some fun rapid fire questions. Who inspires you most?
2 for 1. I would say my parents, my mom and my dad.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My dad passed away in 2017.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. But he always said something that like has stuck with me forever, and I replay it in my head always. So simple, but he just has always said, never give up on your dreams. And there are so many moments as a business owner, as an actor, where you do want to give up. And that always plays in my head. And I remember him saying, like, his dream when he was younger was to live in California. He grew up in New York, live in California and have a pool and have 2 cars in the driveway. And he achieved that. And it's like a very simple, you know, he wasn't like, I want to be an astronaut. Like, it was just a simple dream that he achieved. And he was just so great at like the work-life balance of like working hard and then living your entire best life. So that is always very inspiring. And my mom is just like one of the biggest badasses I know. Like, you just don't mess with Sharon Battle, and everyone knows it. And
yes, Sharon Battle.
She's super mom, and she also has always just been very she has never once told me like, maybe you shouldn't try that. You know what I mean? Like my entire life has, I mean, case in point, like sending me off to boarding school before she was really ready to let me go. Like, she just has always wanted me to experience all the things. So definitely.
Oh my gosh, that answer. What a good answer.
So
that was
good.
So
I hope
sweet.
and your mom's going to listen to it. I hope.
She texted me and she was like, well, when are you recording it? When can I hear it?
Oh,
good. Well, shout out to Sharon Battle. Yes.
Hi, Sharon.
Battle.
Okay. So what are your 2 desert island beauty products? Like, you have to have, can't live without.
The one thing that I use on my face is vitamin E oil. So I will say vitamin E oil. That is like my moisturizer of choice.
Your skin is glowing, so it is working.
Your skin is gorgeous.
That's all, again, from Sharon Battle. She always just put vitamin E oil, so that's all I use. And I might say like, I want to pick 2. I love these hair products that I found called Organic Grow. It's organic vegan hair products.
Oh my gosh, you were telling me about this a while ago on Instagram. Tell us, because it's really interesting.
About it all the time. It's a Black female-owned business. And yeah, it's just like organic vegan hair products. There's no additives. Like, the creator of it purposely doesn't sell it in stores because she doesn't want to put shit in it to make it have a shelf life, you know? But I started using it like 2 years ago, and I literally don't think I could ever use anything else ever again. Like, my hair has just never been stronger. And in the beginning of the pandemic, again, when we thought it was only going to last for a couple weeks, I went down to my boyfriend's house to like hunker down for a little bit. And I didn't have any of my stuff. I had like pajamas and like a toothbrush and a pair of pants, whatever. And I didn't have my hair stuff. And I was like, whatever, I'm just going to let it breathe and be free. And I was like, I can't live like this. Like, he will tell you, I like ordered the shampoo and conditioner. And when I got it, I was like, just leave me for like 20 minutes, and was like, like, I don't think I can live with
you gotta get it. Can you say the name one more time?
It's called Organic Grow.
Can you give us a recommendation of just something that you feel like has brought value to your life? A book, a TV show, a movie, a podcast?
Real Housewives.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God. Same over here though. It is my guilty at the end of a long day, turn my brain off, have a glass of wine. I swear it's like therapy. I tune out, my brain relaxes. I go to bed.
I mean, I'm a huge anything Bravo, but I will say I actually recently because my boyfriend and I drove cross country from New York to LA to get out here, which was awesome. Highly recommend it.
So crazy.
Actually, I realized, Alex, we went on kind of a similar route. Yeah. Because Vinny messaged me and he was like, oh shit, we stayed there. Like, he saw my Instagram and he was like, wait, we stayed at that hotel. Wait, we drove there too. And I was like, oh, amazing.
We did a lot of cross country. Vinny is from San Francisco.
Yeah.
And my family's in St. Louis. And then we live in New York. We did a lot of cross country drives this summer. I did not love it as much as you seem to. I'm really glad you did. I'm terrible in a car. I have motion sickness and a tiny bladder. So like I'm a nightmare. But like I'm so happy that you loved it.
I loved it, but yeah, so we only listened to podcasts really on the road, and we discovered Dax Shepard's podcast, and
it's Armchair Expert.
Yes,
it's my favorite.
So good.
Love it. So that has brought value, just like listening to other people's perspectives and their journeys and whatever. Like, loved that.
So where can we find you, and where on social media, and how can we work out with you with BattleBody?
So with BattleBody, you can go to battlebody.co, no M, battlebody.co.
Okay.
And that's where you can find the on-demand videos. My blog is back and it's on there. And that's where you can also like sign up for personal training or whatever if you want. On Instagram, it's at BattleBody NYC or at Emilie H Battle, Emilie H Battle.
Thank you so much, Emilie. This was incredible. I can't wait to do another one of your workouts. Yay. And I can't wait for everybody to hear this interview and do your workouts and just hear how amazing and strong and inspirational you are. You inspire me.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Truly. Yes. Thank you so much for being here.